unusual spirit can be difficult with external factors pulling a prospect that will keep our associates and connections glued to our institution and architecture profession. Today, we all have gathered here to listen to esteemed architect, Architect Rajiv Agarwal from Archi Group Architects, Delhi. I would now like to invite Architect Vivek Sehgal, HOD GNDC School of Architecture, to welcome our prestigious guest. Sir, please.
Yes, good evening to all the participants and good evening to my host, Architect Harveesh Kaur ma'am. I welcome each and every participant who have spared their times to hear to Architect Rajiv sir. I also welcome Professor Rai sir, Head of Department, Civil Engineering Department, GNE. I welcome Stinder sir from GNE. I welcome all the students. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce to you Architect Rajiv Agarwal, partner and founder of Archi Group Architects, Delhi. The firm, it was established in year 1985 as a partnership firm. Over the years, this group have delivered world-class solutions to projects of every size, from individual buildings to large developments inside and outside India. As a partner of the firm, Rajiv sir has led designs for educational campuses, embassies, medical colleges, hospitals, condominiums, etc. AA's goal, AA is Archi Group Architects. Archi Group Architects' goal for every project is the same. That is to create a built environment in which buildings and humans interact to coexist, and that too in harmony. Well, talking about our guest, Architect Rajiv sir, he graduated in 1978. Well, at that time I was not even born. With gold medal from the School of Planning and Architecture. School of Planning and Architecture is the best architecture school in India. A gold medal in SPA, well, you can't get that easy, is given after one tops for all 5 years. He did his Masters in Architecture from the Royal Danish Academy of Arts in Copenhagen, Denmark in 1983-85. He worked with legendary architect A.P. Kanvinde sir, known as Father of Indian Architecture. He learned from the master architect for 6 years, and he considers Kanvinde sir as his guru. He has been an international consultant with the World Bank for 30 years now and has worked in many developing countries across the globe. We welcome you, sir. All of us are privileged to listen to your comprehensive experiences and accomplishments. Thank you so much, sir. Now I hand over the proceedings to our host, Architect Harveesh Kaur ma'am.
Hello, sir. Welcome. One request to the listeners. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box below. I'll bring them during the presentation, and we will also have time for the questions at the end. Thank you. Sir, to begin with, I would like to ask that is there any architect in your family which guided your decision to become an architect? Because in 70s, the architecture was a very rare profession to adopt.
Yeah, has been only student one to be 60. So it was the name in a family with a big thing. But yeah, I don't have IIT. So I try much understand. But then can you
Sir, I think there is some problem with the internet connection at your end because we are not able to hear your voice properly.
is it should I
Um, Vivek sir, can we check the technicality here? Where's the issue?
Hello, sir. This is Computer Center. Please, I think your connection is internet speed is lower. Please turn off your camera if it solves the problem.
Okay.
Maybe if Rajiv sir, please speak after speak
yeah
now. No, sir. I don't think sir it is working. Let me check.
Rajiv sir, video is clear, but only audio is interrupting.
I think there is no problem in his video stream. Ma'am, if it is possible, sir may also use his mobile phone to connect and may use multiple devices. Maybe the internet work from one of the devices.
Madam Havish, if there is anyone in the audience who can talk about our speaker, I mean, we should try to keep things going on. Or in general, if we can talk about the architecture profession, I mean, anyone from your side or from the audience who is very close to our speaker, Architect Agarwal,
is
can
it
say something about him.
you hear me?
Yes, sir. Vivek sir, you're audible.
Do you,
Viv-
hello
Hello, please, sir, turn on your camera. I think there is no problem in the camera. Internet connectivity is poor.
Hello.
Rajiv sir, please can you say something so that we can check that if there's no
I'm
problem now?
Harvi. Hear me.
So I think again the issue is there. Mm.
Yeah, Harvish, thanks for the question. I thought I had answered it, but there was an issue with this. So yes, at that time there wasn't any architect in my family, and I had got admission in SPA, and then also in IIT. And that time it was very rare to join architecture. So we discussed it in the family. So there was a cousin, and I must admit I also did not know much about architecture, but I still decided to go with it. And first year I didn't understand anything much, but then slowly and slowly, the teachers the teachers in this school were great in SPA, so I started developing interest, and that's how. So there wasn't any architect, but I joined, and later I developed interest in architecture. So there may be some students here who may not have any architect in their families, or think that it's a strange profession. In 70s, Harvish, architecture used to be a glamorous profession. Can you believe that when I joined in 73, graduated in 78, that time you could become a member of Council of Architecture after 1 year. So in 79, when I applied for my membership number was 5632. So that means at that time in 79, there were only 5,631 architects when I applied. So it was indeed a rare profession, but I was very, very fortunate to get the guidance and to persist and to get the guidance from my guru. So I'll be talking more about my guru subsequently. So yeah.
Like Vivek sir introduced you saying that you graduated from School of Planning and Architecture. We would like to know about your experience in SPA.
Harvish, I must say that SPA is a very special school. After, like you said, I started practicing in 85, and I have seen architecture around the world. In SPA, they never taught us any solution. They only taught us a process. So that, in a way, trained us to come out into the world and find solutions to any kind of problems you have. Sit down, start analyzing, start working towards a solution. You may find later that this approach is not correct. So then go back, start again. So that way, I was very fortunate to work in SPA. But like I said, when I joined, there were 33 students. SPA used to take 33 students in a batch. So they were 165 students, say 150, 160 students in 5 years. So it was a very close-knit kind of a family. And since it was a glamorous profession, I must also say that in my batch of 33 students, there were just about 2-3 of us who were from Hindi medium. So we couldn't even speak English at that time. So it was such a glamorous profession that in the first year you would feel that, oh, unless you speak English, unless you are from a big family, unless you have good connections, architecture is not for you. But then, just persisting with it, working hard at it. So it has been the architecture profession, and I'm still serving that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your formidable experience. And we have heard that you worked with Mr. Kanvinde, who is known as the father of Indian architecture. So how was it to work with him?
In one single word, tough. It was tough. Mr. Kanvinde, he was divinity in architecture. Absolutely great. And those days he used to have 18 boards in his studio. So there would be 18 architects working. And that was the time when the work used to chase architects. It was not like today when the architects are chasing work. So in the first year in my Mr. Kanvinde's office, I realized that maybe it was a mistake that, architecture, I'm not really suited to architecture, with this gold medal and all those funny things. And you think that, you are no less than the best in the world. But Mr. Kanvinde really showed me my place. And I used to get scolding day in and day out that you architects, you don't do anything, this is not your job, this is not your role, this is what your profession should be, and this and that. But, he was so great that people in the office told me that he has this habit of shaking a tree and all the rotten leaves will fall and then the real leaves will stay, so you please stay on. And God was kind. I stuck on and I learned a lot. Whatever I am today, whatever is my approach towards architecture, it's only because of Mr. Kanvinde. He was so great. I was working on NIBM, National Institute of Banking Management campus. And there was a time in Mr. Kanvinde's office where 4 or 5 or 6 campuses would be on the boards. And we used to draft with, pencil and T-square and set square. And if you started working with the T-square and set square, he used to, when he used to come twice to the studio, once before lunch and once after lunch. So he will come to you and say, what are you drafting? How can you draft unless you have sketched it? So before coming to sketching, it has to be in your head. First, think what you want to sketch. Sketch, and then when it looks reasonable, go to the drawing board. How can the T-square and set square tell you what to draft unless it is in your head and you have sketched it? And I must say, I say the same thing to my staff now, because these young guys, they are all, if I may use the word, they are all subservient to the computer. So they think the computer can give them the answer, but unfortunately, computer will tell them only what they feed into the computer. So I keep remembering Mr. Kanvinde's words even now. But so, I mean, he has 100% influence on me in my architecture, to put it in one sentence.
That was indeed very inspiring, sir. Sir, we all know that Archi Group architects have won many prestigious architectural competitions. It would be really noteworthy if you can throw some light on the role and significance of architecture competitions for students as well as for professionals.
It's an interesting question given today's context. Harvish, like most of the architects, I would not say all architects, most of the architects, we begin our careers designing houses. And that's how I started. And I designed a number of houses. And in between, I got an assignment with the World Bank which made me travel around the country. I've met some people, and then there was this competition for Guru Gobind Singh in the Kasta University. So we decided to participate in it. And that was when, 1998 or something, 97 or something. And I must say, first few weeks, I didn't know what I'm doing. It was so difficult because, I had designed 500,000 yard, 2,000 yard houses, some farmhouse. And then suddenly you have 65-acre site in front of you, and you don't know what to do. And again, it was my Guruji's idea and my prayers to him that I got an idea. We prepared the designs and we submitted. It was a 2-stage competition. We came to the second stage. And then there we were judged. So competitions from that point of view, that is what, kind of took me to the higher level in the profession. So then we started participating in, actually it's a blood, you taste this blood once, then you want to taste it again and again and again. So then we participated in many competitions and won quite a few. But competitions are a way of taking a large step forward in an architect's life.
Okay. I think now our students are going to take these competitions very seriously. Sir, our listeners would love to experience your architecture journey through some of your projects. That would be extraordinary if you can share some of your works.
Okay. So should I share my screen now?
Yes, sir. It will be great. Yeah.
Do you see my screen now?
Not yet, sir. It's not visible. I think computer center need to give that
Permission.
authority.
Yeah.
Yeah. Satinder, sir,
Sir, I think you have permissions. Have you seen it's in the button? Wait, sir. Share your screen on your screen.
I did that.
But you have to select that particular screen which you want to share.
Yes, I did that also. Now?
No, sir, it is not visible.
Okay, let's start.
After selecting the screen, you may click on Start Sharing.
Right, so now it says share your screen. I click that.
Yeah.
Now it says share, but it's not highlighted. So I'm not able to click on share.
Because you are not clicked on that particular box in the screen. When first of all you click on that button, you hit on that button, then there will be a pop-up window in front of you.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, and you have to select that box from that window.
It says share your screen. So I shared that. I clicked on it, and now there is a pop-up window.
Yeah,
right.
And then you have to select that screen from the whole screen.
The screen that I want to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it is. I think you started sharing. It will be visible. I think the sir left the session.
Hello, all the listeners. By the time Sir is making the screen settings, you can drop off your questions in the chat box so that we can ask him later. Thank you.
Yes, sir, your screen is visible now. Please turn on your mic to speak.
Yeah. Do you hear me, please?
Yes, sir. Your voice is clear.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you see my first slide?
Yes, sir, it's visible and you're audible too. You can
Okay,
start.
great. Yeah, thank you. So like friends like Harvish and Vivek were very kind. So they told you that I started this firm, Arti Group Architects, in 1985. And I told you earlier that everything in my life is whatever I'm doing, I dedicate to Mr. Kanyan. He was my guru, guide, philosopher, everything. So I'll show you a few important statements that still keep echoing in my mind when I sit down on a boat to design a building. So he used to say the buildings are designed in the present, obviously, but with the experience from the past. So we cannot under any circumstances erase the history. We learn from the history and we design in the present, and these buildings are going to live in the future. So the current building designed from the experiences of the past for the use in future. This used to be his major statement. Then when he would get very angry, he will say, you understand how important your profession is? When you go to a doctor, one person is trusting one life with the doctor. But when you go to an architect, his creation is going to live for generations. So you should understand whatever line you draw on the paper is going to live even after you are not living. So please take it very seriously as to what you are answerable to the society, and whatever you are creating has to be purposeful. Then he used to say that what is architecture? Architecture is synthesis of art and science to create a life-enhancing ambience within its surroundings. He used to put a lot of, that probably many of you may not be knowing Mr. Kanyan very well. He was known as not only the father of Indian architecture, but also a saint in architecture. So he used to say that honesty is the best policy in dealing with anything in life. He used to say that even when a thief leaves his house in the morning, he doesn't want to meet another thief. He also wants to meet an honest man. So there is no way that the honesty will not pay. So the idea of honesty in architecture is to be true to the building structure, building circulation, building materials. And when you have an optimum combination of these, then the solution is ideal. So this is what, these are the 3-4 statements which keep echoing in my mind. So these have been the mantras for motivating and inspiring me. Show you some of the buildings. So this is Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, which we spoke about a little earlier, the design competition. This was our first design competition and an international design competition where we won the first prize. So it was a 60-acre site, 20 lakh square feet area to be constructed, academic areas 8 lakh, 8.5 lakhs, residential areas 11 lakhs, 1,400 boys for hostels for boys, 1,000 for girls, 600 staff quarters, and then sports and social areas and all that. It was a very interesting site. It was, if you can see my cursor, the road was on one side. This was 350 meters. And the depth of the site was nearly around 800 meters. And the access was only from this side. So what we did was, of course, when you're designing a university, you have to identify various zones. So this was our academic zone. These were the hostels. This was the hostel zone. Sports connecting the hostels and the residences. So this is the basic site planning we did. The basic concept was the whole circulation system, like I told you earlier, Mr. Kanvinde's words. The whole circulation system is woven around this pedestrian spine, which we put in the middle. And if you see on the right-hand side on top, these were our inspirations. You see a South Indian temple, the axis is very clear, and then there is development around it, but everything is planned around that central axis. Or if you see Mr. B.V. Doshi's IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, that is another beautiful campus in which, I mean, he is a great man, Mr. Doshi. So that was another inspiration for me. And the basic system that they have followed in Fatehpur. So now there was this spine that we proposed, and all our circulation system emanated from the spine. So these 3 circles you saw which emerged earlier, these were the hubs. So the first circle was the academic hub, second was the hostel hub, and the third was the residential hub. And the traffic earlier zones. So the vehicular was kept on the periphery of these zones. So from the periphery, you would enter each zone, park outside these zones, and the buildings were lifted from the ground to allow for parking and also to allow you access into the complex. So I'll show you how that works. So I'll show this again. Now this was our entrance, our circulation system. Around this, we wove our built form. So the black or the dark brown are the buildings, and the greens are the open areas. So you can imagine that you park on the periphery. These black buildings were required appropriately lifted. They get you into the clusters or courtyards, enclosed by these buildings. And then you come on the spine, and then you walk between the various zones. That is how it was. And if you see from the left to the right, this was our spine, which continued towards the housing. Now, the bylaws in Delhi are such that, you have to allow, and the FAR is 80 and the ground coverage is 20. So you can build everything within 4 floors. But with 20% coverage, you cannot under any circumstances have proper breathing for the building. So we had some buildings which are on lower height, and to make up for the lost FAR, we had to go multi-story. Now, when you go multi-story, then every activity of yours is planned because it is either ground floor or your floor where you are. But we decided to give terraces in each building. So this L shape is one department. This L shape is another department. They are connected with bridges. So every time you don't have to go down. If you see this, there is a bridge here. There is a bridge here. There is a bridge here. So these are connected, and then we created terraces at the gable ends of the buildings. So now that this campus has been constructed, we find that some terraces which get sun are used in the winter, and the other terraces which get shade are used in the summer. So these terraces then gave an opportunity for the students to come out, chat, talk, and then the bridges made communication between the departments easy. So this whole complex, when you go there, is fully active, and the operations and the activities are happening at different levels. And the parking which I showed you is outside, and these are the stilts through which you will come in. So I'll show you some more pictures about it. One college was planned like this. So this green are the academic areas, workshops, and these are the classrooms. Black is the faculty. Gray is the circulation for faculty. This dark green is the circulation for academic. And these two met in the center with a core. So this shape of the college gave us a possibility to make clusters, make courtyards, and creates the kind of spaces we need. The administration building it's planned on a modular basis. There are 3 wings. So each wing has, there are these modules for senior staff, then for support staff and services. There is a skylight in the middle, and then the corridor. So it comes like that. The skylight in the middle, that brought daylight kind of conditions right into the center of the building. So when you are walking around in this building, you feel that you don't feel you are in an enclosed space. The library is another important building in a campus. So this is a 3 lakh volume, 260 capacity. So it's a big library. It's something like 60,000, 70,000 square feet. So I told you about the academic hub in the beginning. So the library starts from the academic hub. So these steps take you to the library. And these steps are something like 120, 100 feet long. So there are, and this is the canteen here at the back. So you find a lot of students sitting on these steps, taking their tea, coffee, Coke, or whatever. And then the library entrance is on the first floor. The grid of the library, that's what I told you about the continuation of the academic hub into the building. Now the structure system we designed was according to the spacing required for the stacks. So there are beams coming under the stacks. So the load distribution was much easy. So the center to center column spacing was worked out accordingly. The ducting was done in a way you have 25 to 30 feet through from the ducts. So the ducts were placed, and the building size was designed in a way that you have minimum ducting and the most efficient air conditioning system. Then again, like in the academic building, in the administration building, we had skylights here to play. I mean, when you walk in my library, you on the second floor, you do see a mild shadow on the floor. That is how we visualized it. The academic hub, you go straight into the library. This is the entrance to the library. And I'm digressing a bit. So these are the bridges connecting with the various buildings. You see this bridge here, and you must be wondering why the bridge has this shape. In Delhi, we have very strict norms for firefighter movement. So we had to, adjust according to the firefighter movement pattern and take the bridges up or down as required. So this was our sketch of the library, and this is the real library. These pictures are taken soon after completion, so don't think that it is a ghost library. No, it's a very active place. You see a lot of students walking around, sitting on the steps, enjoying themselves, chatting, talking. And this is the spine. This one is the spine. So you see a lot of movement because from the courtyards, from the clusters, everybody comes into the center of the spine. So that's really beautiful. These are the bridges, like I was telling you, and these are the terraces which I mentioned to you. And if you see this tilted area, so now outside this built area was the parking. You park there and walk through this tilted area and come to the spine and then go wherever you need. This is our administration building. Again, great influence of my Guruji. I mean, he studied in US when nobody had heard of education there. So, and he had a great influence of Frank Lloyd Wright. And from Mr. Ganvinde, I learned the play of solids and voids. So you probably will see that in some of my buildings. I tried to do something like what he said. So now you see here the parking and then this tilted area, and then you move through this tilted area into the cluster or the courtyard. The buildings, each building, we have done the built volume such that when you are walking in corridors, at many places you participate in the cluster or in the courtyard. So the whole building is not as an independent building. It is a built volume in which you move from one volume to the other, and every time your experience of walking changes. So I've been to this campus 4 or 5 times, and I felt myself that your experience does not go stale every time you experience something new. This is the spine, and you see the bridge at the back. And on the left are the terraces. Then there was this other competition after, like I said, after Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, we had tasted blood, so we participated in this university also. It was a 625-acre site, not much of construction, 7-8 lakh square feet. Relatively small construction compared to Guru Gobind Singh University. But the site was 100% hills, total hills. And if as a crow flies from this site, the border was something like 6-7 kilometers only. So on this hilly site, our major concern was that we should at least affect the existing environment. And to achieve that, we respected the existing water channels and the existing landforms. So I'll show you how we did that. We analyzed the site and we found out that these are the patches where the land gradient is less or around 10%, where we can possibly build. So in that zone, this was our water channel. And we placed our buildings like this, and the water channel came like that. So the water channel within our built up area was channelized, and the remaining was left as the natural drain. The site had contours like this. So we derived a common denominator from the contours. And we made our decks for buildings like this. Just go back. These were the contours. This was the denominator. And that's how we placed our campus. So this is the whole plan. And the skyline, because there were decks created, and it had to have some reflection of Srinagar architecture. So they have a very famous, very beautiful mosque which has the minarets like this. So we picked up that as an element, and that's how we created this. This was the skyline, and this was the section through the decks. So you can see that the gradient is fairly high, and we had to cut and fill, and that's how we planned the different decks. So that's how the campus looked. These are the academic areas. These are the hostels and academic zone. Then we were invited to do a university in Mauritius. And there we went to Mauritius and we tried to figure out what we should do. And of course, water is a major element in Mauritius. So we based our concept for the first site. We based it on a shell. So this was our shell, and in the center we took the axis. From the center emanated the circulation grids, and the site was organized like this, that the center point was the water hub. Then we had the social ring, and we had sports, academic, and then the academic oblique residential. So that's how it looked. This building, they have changed the requirements, and very different kind of a building has now been constructed. But this was the plan which was accepted. After we presented this, they asked us, the minister there asked us to do concepts for 2 more universities. Well, Mauritius is a small place and they couldn't afford 3 universities. But anyways, we were asked to do 2 more. And the next site was a triangular site. So we derived our built form from the triangles. And on these triangles, we put our buildings. And in the center of these triangles were the hubs, which were the iconic towers. And around the hubs was again the water. Vehicular movement was kept on the periphery as usual. That's our basic concept. Try and segregate vehicle and pedestrians as much as possible. So the pedestrians were inside, and that is how the whole campus looked. This is only to be a concept, so that is the kind of shape we had given it. So you remember the circular iconic building in the center, and then the water, which is a very key element in Mauritius, and then the rest of the buildings. Then the third site, we just prepared some sketches for him. We've also done Punjab Technical University, and this was probably of more interest to you, because whatever I tell you here, you can check me out by visiting the site and see how many lies I have told you. So then this was a national competition. We won the first prize. 75 acres, significant amount of construction area. We have academic areas, residential, hostels. I mean, everything that a university needs. And we have a swimming pool, we have a running track, and an auditorium, indoor sports, also all those things. This was a 75-acre site, and there were no physical elements except the highway. So the master plan we prepared, and what we decided was that the building should have a curvilinear form. Just to tell you, from this end to the other end, the length is 1.3 kilometers. And the maximum width is available here. That is where we had to put these sports, which this was around 250 meters. And running tracks, football field and running tracks take up around 180, 190 meters. So this was the only place. And then around this went the rest of the planning. This is one of the key elements to derive the design. So we had suggested a curvilinear form. If I just show you again, so if you see this and the curvilinear form and the movement on the highway. So with this, we were able to, because it's a rectilinear site, we were able to hide all the parking at the back. And there is a big uninterrupted green in the front. So that was our concept based on which we won the first prize. And as you know, the universities develop over a period of time. So the requirements of the university changed and we had to adapt. And the drawing that I have shown you here is not really from the competition, but this is what we have done. And we retained the key points from our design. So these were the four zones: academic, administration, sports, and residential. This is roughly how it looks. Most of it is constructed now. So I'll show you some of the buildings and I'll discuss with you what were our considerations. So the administrative zone, this was the administration building here in the middle. This was completed. The front wing is for the VC and other related functions, and the wing at the back is for normal administrative functions. VC has his office right in the middle here, and that is in the axis of the entrance. And when you enter the university, right in front of you in the center is the VC's office. And by the time your site reaches the VC's office, you have a very well landscaped traffic island. Then you have fountains, and then you have a foreground to the building. Mr. Kanvinde always used to say that building has a context, and we have to respect the context. Then the building will have its identity. Then the building is working with the environment in which you are placing it. So then after we did the administration building, we did the next phase was these two college buildings and this library. So I'll show you some the sketches of the library. That's how we planned the library. You see, again, there is this amphitheater. The entrance to the library is here on the first floor. This is a double height reading area. There are these flying staircases, two staircases. I mean, the one staircase gets split into two. So there is a staircase here, and then again here the span and things like that. I've already explained to you in Guru Gobind Singh University. So this is our ground floor. First floor is here. This is the double height reading area. Second floor is here, which is fully built up. So if you see my section, this is the double height stilted area, double height reading area. This is the flying staircase. This is the first floor. So when you stand here, you are able to still participate in the spine that I have in front. Even when you go to the second floor, I recess the second floor so that you are still able to participate and have a visual connection with the pedestrian spine in front. Then again, using the same concept as in the administration building, we created a foreground in front of the reading area. So there is a green patch of around 40-45 feet between the pedestrian spine and the reading area. So each has its own identity, but still, they work with each other. This amphitheater that I have here, it's connected with the bridge. On the ground floor, this is the canteen. So you take your tea, coffee and sit here. And this again opens out into the pedestrian spine, this stage. The college was quite an interesting concept. So there were three wings. One wing is this. Now this is for workshops, laboratories and things like that. This is the academic one. Classrooms, tutorials, small classrooms and functions like that. This was the faculty. So the workshops and the academic areas, they were connected with flying corridors. So it does not feel you are walking in a building. It always feels that you are outside and enjoying the outside. This was the elevation. So the architectural vocabulary I forgot to mention in the Indraprastha University. The vocabulary in Indraprastha University, which I mentioned to you, was derived from the terraces and the bridges. In this case, since there were no significant elements, we designed the vocabulary for the administration building, which was constructed first of square windows. And then here, because 2 floors are one department, there are 3 departments housed in this building. So we mix that to define in this vocabulary to say that, okay, now you look at the building and you know that this is one department, this is another department, this is third department. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Are you able to see my cursor? I'm moving the cursor. Harvish, are you able to see the movement of my cursor?
Sir, yes, it is visible, but in the previous slides, it was lost somewhere.
Or
The
because
elevation
I think
is
yeah,
visible.
network issue, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is how my buildings look. I'll show you. This is the 3D of the college. I had in this committee, you know, they had some architects who would approve my designs. And this was one college. This is another college here. And in between, I wanted to put a function. So we had a great discussion. They were not agreeing with me to put this function in the middle. And I said, gentlemen, I have to put it here. So they said, no, we don't. I said, okay, let us not take a decision in this meeting. Let me try and convince you. So I came back home. I've been to some villages in Italy. I took out those pictures. I took out from the books. I took out pictures of how piazzas are designed. And then I showed them the pictures and how the open spaces transit from one space to the other and what is in between the transition. So then I showed it to them and then I managed to have this. So that was what I want to tell the young listeners is that if we have a conviction, we should be able to prove it. Otherwise, a discussion should be between 2 intelligent persons. So one says the other one understands or the other one says the first understands. It's not a fight. It is a professional discussion. So I really enjoyed working with that team. We used to have professional difference of opinion, but then, you know, we used to have discussion there. Okay, this is the library. And if you see now, this is the double height reading area. These are the columns, and this is the foreground in front. Now that's the spine. That's my amphitheater. This is the flight of steps taking you to the library. Below this is the canteen. So that's how the spine looks. So this is what I was trying to convince them, that I am coming from a large space. I come to this reduced space on either side, and then I again come out in the open. So I wanted to create a variation in the walking experience. So it was interesting. I just want to tell my young students that, you know, we have to think and think logically. Now that is the real building. That's the library. This is the amphitheater. And from that is, when you're sitting in the amphitheater, you are visually participating in this part. Now this is the close-up of the academic zone. So I'll now show you the lecture hall complex. This is a very interesting building. So what we did here was, now this is our spine. The lecture hall radiates from the spine and goes out. So in a way, it is ending in the spine, or in other words, starting from the spine. So that's how it was. So it radiates from here, and they have very interesting requirements here: 60 classrooms, 90 classrooms, 150, 250. So it was not an easy job to find a common denominator for different sizes of lecture rooms. So in the front, we have this huge amphitheater, and then there is an atrium which is 4 floors high, and then come the classrooms. Now see the next one. It's the 4th floor. So this is amphitheater, atrium, and the classrooms. This is the section. This is the corridor in front of the lecture rooms. This is the atrium. This is the amphitheater, and a bridge which brings you to the terrace. So now what we did was, from when you're walking on the spine, you are interacting with the building through the atrium. When you are in the building, you are interacting with the spine through this glass. And on this floor, you are able to come onto the terrace and then again interact with us. To have continuity of the building visually, we proposed a space frame. Now the design is very different. So this was at the conceptual stage. So that's how it looks. From the spine, this is how it emerges. And also please note that library had this shape of the windows on the second floor, and the lecture hall has the reverse shape of the windows. Same circular columns, we have made these again white here. So the similar concept which is reflected, but the built form is very different. And this is the end of the spine where we have placed the workshops. That's how it looks. I have, in this sketch, as you all know, you can remove and place whatever building you want. So I have removed the library. I now show you another one of my favorite buildings in this campus, and that's the auditorium. So this is the auditorium. So in the short time, I could not find many drawings, and I didn't have time because of Corona. There are not many staff in the office. So now just please try and imagine this circle as the auditorium for 800. Then you have this corridor around it. I don't normally like corridors which are just dead from one end to the other. So I created a relief area on this corridor which opens out. And I increased the width of this. And I tell you, I mean, when you go there, you just don't feel that you are in a corridor. Your experience is changing, and it is becoming interactive with the outside. So you don't feel that you are inside a building, like inside as inside. And everything around the auditorium is then planned as if it is radiating out of that. So that is how it looks. And please look at this pattern carefully. This is a very deliberately created pattern. First of all, it is as per my structural grid below. And secondly, because buildings surrounding it are high, and those buildings will be looking down on a terrace. And I did not want any of my terraces to look odd. So I created these flooring patterns here. Wherever I have to keep machines, those have been, the walls have been raised so that these machines will get hidden even when you look at them from an angle. This auditorium and the indoor sports hall in front, they make one space. So we created a transition space. When you're walking on a footpath, there is this transition before you continue on the footpath, and this transition takes you to either the auditorium or the indoor sports hall. So what I'm trying to show you is that it is a varying experience which we try to create all the time, and interaction between building and the human beings is changing, so you never lose interest walking. That is the auditorium. It's complete now. This is another of our favorite parts of the campus, is the housing. And I'll just show you the design. So what we go back to the sketch. Now, what we did in this small housing, these are 2-room, 3-room housings. So when you have only 2 rooms or 3 rooms, you certainly need an outdoor space. So in our plan, each apartment has 1 room size, double height terrace. So the kitchen and toilet are the constant doors, and the rooms are rotating around like this. So on one floor, this is the terrace. One floor, this is the terrace. Upper floor, this room becomes the terrace, and this is a double height below. Floor above, this room becomes a terrace, and this is a double height below. So like this, the whole building rotates, and it comes like this. So you see, carefully see these double height terraces. And I used to call in my office, I used to call this building a vertical ground, because everybody has ground floor like situation in their apartments. And then what we did was, these two blocks are 70 feet apart. So we bridged them across. You know, these small houses, whenever you want to have a function, you have a problem when you have a child's birthday or some small party. So these terraces, this terrace will not have any water tanks or anything. We will design the water supply system accordingly. And these spaces can be used for, you know, for parties. And you can, the wall is about 1 floor high. So you can leave your children freely to play around here, and you don't feel that, you know, they can fall down or things like that. So this was the highlight of this. Then we did Jalandhar Teacher Training Institute. It was within Jalandhar. So we had to create an inside looking building because there wasn't anything much to look out. So this was the training part. This was the teachers' hostels, dining, and senior teachers' bigger kind of suites. That's how it looked. There was a bridge connecting the academic and the residential areas. And then we created sports. We've also done GCET, Government College of Engineering Technology. It sounds like an engineering college, but it's as big as a university. It's a 100-acre site. So these are some of the buildings there. This is a lecture hall complex. So we put the lecture halls in a way that when a student comes in, if he comes in late, he does not disturb the teacher. He just goes there and walks in, goes there and walks in. And the windows are designed so deep that the glare would never come in the eyes of the teacher or in the eyes of the students. And in the courtyards, we created a small, you know, number of steps for people to sit. Now, when we go there, we find that as a very active place. That is how it looked from outside. This, you must be wondering what this tower is. These towers were placed to house the coolers. So all these lecture halls are centrally cooled, and this is where the cooler units are put. So that helped me create a skyline. This is the hostel. So these are the hostel wings. These are dining, common room, and things like that. Another hostel wing. The hostels are spaced apart in a way that you can have a badminton court in between. This building is currently under construction. It's an engineering college, engineering department, electrical engineering department. This was another college we did for Ansals in Lucknow. The only interesting part why I'm showing you this is that, first of all, this central circle, we have a ramp going and connecting all the floors rather than staircases. Of course, staircases and lifts are there, but we now find that the ramp is the most active place in the whole building. And then the windows on the circle, windows on the circle, you know, for each window, we worked out the angle of the protection so that when the sun moves, the window will get appropriate shading. These ones here. If you look carefully, although in the 3D it may not be so clear, but this is all designed that each window gets proper protection. I just wanted to show you this building. It's a hostel in Mansa. It's not got constructed. But here, we were told Mansa tends to get very hot. So with each room, first of all, there were triple-seater rooms, and with each room, we had a terrace big enough for 3 cots to come, so that the students can sleep during summer. There are some other institutes. I mean, we've done quite a few. Then after we did a lot of universities, we started working on hospitals. So this was another competition we won. So in a hospital, in an OPD, doctors and machines are fixed and patients are moving. In a ward, patients are fixed, doctors and machines are moving. In OT, machines are fixed, doctors and patients are moving. So considering these 3 key elements, if we can work out a circulation pattern and a pattern of services, the hospital will work well. So I'll show you how we tried to do it. So this was our hospital. So wing A, we had nephrology and urology. Wing B, cardiology and CTV. Wing C, neurology and neurosurgery. So this is a wing. So in this wing, we have this at the back is the movement of services and doctors. In the front, this is the entrance, and this is the movement of the patients. So the patients go into each individual wing as needed, and then they get treated, while the services come from the back. So this solution helped us very much in solving the cross between the services movement and the patient's movement, and also helped us a great deal design the OT floor. Unfortunately, I don't have the OT floor plan here. So this is how the functions were stacked to the ground. See, the site was at sloping site, so this is the entry level 2 for patients, entry level 1 for services. This is how the hospital looked from outside. These are the services. So I'll just show you what I normally do. What I do is, against each bay, I normally design a shaft for pipes, and these shafts are large enough for a worker to move in and attend to the pipes. So in a hospital where the functions may change, or you may need additional wash basin or additional water supply disposal point, so it's never a hassle, just take the pipe from there and connect. And we did elaborate design of the shafts. So these are the shafts which become the skyline. Yeah. So that's the sketch, and this is the real building. This is the ICU, the entrance lobby. Then we did some sketches for the medical college in Jalandhar. It didn't go very far, but there was this existing existing hospital, and we were supposed to plan a college out of it and add hostels, houses, increase the capacity, super specialty labs and things like that. So this was our basic form. The pink is existing, white is what we proposed. It was a tight site, very, very tight site. This is the housing, the boys' hostels. And we've also done the 150-bed Jallianwala Bagh Memorial Hospital, if any one of you have seen it in Jalandhar. So here again, this is the shaft which I mentioned to you for pipes, and on the ground floor that you can get into the shaft and then move up or enter from the top and attend to the pipes. That's how on the left is the picture of a model. We've done some commercial buildings, keeping in the modern trend. We've done a number of housing projects, number of them, condominiums, which Vivek was mentioning. So, I mean, all these were going very well till the downturn came. So some of them are under construction, and the construction is now stopped. They in height they vary from 20 floors to around 42 floors. This is another one of my favorite projects. It never got constructed because the requirements of the client have changed. I mean, this country scenario has changed. That this is Andaman Nicobar House in Chennai, and again using the Andaman thing. So we use this water going through and through, and all the buildings were lifted on the ground floor. We've used passive solar panels. This building has come out well, but unfortunately, they didn't want to construct it because it will be too expensive to maintain. So we are working on a different project on this site with them. This is also a very good project we did. It's a Bhutan TV station in Thimphu, and this is the front side. These are the studios. This is the administration block. So the studios and the administration block. According to the Buddhist architecture, the width and height of windows is defined in their code. So you have to follow those proportions. You have to follow these designs as in the code. So this element cannot come on ground. It has to come here. So a very interesting project. We worked with the local architect, very intelligent, extremely good boy. So this building is now complete. Now here it is. Unfortunately, the elevation I showed you, you can't see the building from that angle. So this is the completed building now. Did the Danish embassy here in Delhi. Now they moved from here. Did the Danish ambassador's house on the most expensive street in Delhi, Amrita Shergill Marg. We also were fortunate to do the extension to the Belgian embassy. So if you people know, Belgian embassy is designed by Satish Gujral, and I mean, all my senior architects, I hold them in very high esteem. So I told the ambassador, I said, why don't you hire Satish ji? So they said no, because whatever the reason. But I said, if I am planning this, I will go to him before I proceed. So they said yes. So I went to him and I said, sir, do I have your permission to do this project? He said, yes, of course. He's a great man. So we did these sketches and I went to him to show them to you. So he saw the drawings and he speaks in Punjabi. So I said, sir, kidda hai? Theek hai? Bahut sona hai, bana la. He is an elderly man. So then we constructed these and he came for the opening. He's very, very gracious, very gracious. He came for the opening of these buildings and he blessed me. So I've been very, very fortunate, very fortunate. We've entered some design competitions, airport. And besides this, like Vivek was saying, I work in World Bank. So I've done many countries now. Some of the countries are not even mentioned here. I think I worked in something like 20, 25 countries for them over the last 30 years. So that's about it, friends. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was undeniably a great presentation. I know students must have benefited from this a lot. So there are some questions from our listeners. So we
I
can
hope
take
they are easy ones. Yeah,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
take them, but don't put them on a spot that you have been telling all lies.
So one question was from Samia, which says, which project was a turning point in your life?
Samia is asking this. Okay. Which project was a turning point in my life? I would say Guru Gobind Singh University. I mean, I don't, with all humility, I would say, Samia, that I took an artist friend of mine who makes film sets for Mani Ratnam, if you know Mani Ratnam. And I took him to this campus, and he looked out of the car, and his first statement was, Rajiv, this is not a building, it is a song.
Mhm.
So, that kind of touched me. It really touched me, made me feel very good. So I would say, Samya, that was my turning point.
I hope, Samya, you got your answer. So next question was, what are the major obstacles one faces while designing structures?
No obstacles. You have to be innovative. You have to, first of all, like Mr. Kanvinde used to say, I said, you have to be respectful to the structure. Try to understand, for this kind of span or this kind of shape, what do I need to do? Now, the issue here is you have to have an optimum solution. You should not force structure on architecture. That's my problem with most of the guys who come to me. They are not able to merge architecture with structure. It's structure as structure, architecture as architecture. That is where the problem starts. So this is an obstacle, if I may say. It will not be an obstacle if you are able to merge and optimize the two together. Your architect's work, you are the father, you are the director of the movie. So the film set, the what do you call it, the guy who makeup guy, or the cameraman, they are working under your instructions. Although you are not a structural engineer, I must say, I don't know what goes on and how do you calculate the amount of reinforcement in a column or a beam or a pre-stress and this and that. But when I studied in Denmark, I used to have a German teacher, and he, if you can see me on the screen, he used to move his hand like this, and he used to say, you need to have feel for architecture, feel for the material, feel for the structure. So if you have the feel for architecture and structure, you will optimize. There is no obstacle. There is no question of any obstacle.
Okay. Sir, now this is a question from Pakistan. Some Rishi from Pakistan. He's asking, what is the difference between Mughal times architecture and our modern architecture nowadays?
Rishi Bhai, the issue is, the Mughal time architecture was, Rishi is a very good friend of mine. Mughal time architecture was based on gravity. And since no building material at that time could take tension, you have a column. This column has a tendency to bend. If it has a tendency to bend and you want to have a small column, you will need to have reinforcement and concrete. My other architect friends can easily understand this. But if you don't want it to bend and you don't have the material and technology to do it, so you will have to increase the size of the column such that it does not bend. So buildings during Mughal time were done on gravity. And now, because you have modern materials which have different behavior, that is why the architecture has changed. This is how architecture evolves.
Okay. And so the next question we have is, what are the challenges faced during your first project after graduation? What were your challenges? I think the person is going to want to ask. What are the challenges that you faced after the graduation for grabbing your first project?
I was fortunate, yaar. I got a job to do 1,200 square feet showroom in Karol Bagh interior. And you would not believe, 78 to today's now what, 42 years now. And they are still my best friends. So even now, when they do anything in their house, anything, so they will call me, they will discuss with me, and if I say yes, they will say okay. So my dear, I was fortunate to the extent that I got that entry, and then later I got an entry in Jaipur. There used to be a film producer known to my father. I come from a lower middle income group family. So my father, he spent all his money to pay for my education. So he had met somebody. So I met that film producer in Delhi. He had a friend in Jaipur. So those are the days when you had cinema halls. So that film financer had a cinema hall and wanted to get his house designed. So I must say I didn't do a great job, but he was so happy that his chartered accountant asked me to do his house. The chartered accountant's house came out really beautiful. So he was the chartered accountant to most of the jewelers. Now I entered Jaipur and I am an Agarwal Bania, and amongst the Marwadis, that works, and that house came out well. So that's how I got my break in Jaipur, and then one project to third, second to third to fifth to 10th to 100th. So that's how it multiplied. But
Okay.
I must say, you have to learn. You have to be. If I just permit me to say this, please don't mind. Some people. You have to be honest to the work. You must do the best that you can do. There may be a million architects better than you. That's not the point. The point is you have done whatever you wanted to, and that's your best. Number one. Number two, you must, whether it is PTU's money or Punjab Technical University money or Guru Gobind Singh money or any jeweler's money, I must consider that as my money. So I must make all the decisions which I will make, which are good for the building, good for the user, within the money that I would like to spend. And this is what I have been told by some of my clients, that because of that empathy, we feel comfortable with you.
Okay. Sir, we have one question from Nigeria. Nazir is asking this question. How do architects balance between modeling samples of their designs and compromising ethical bounds of trust, security, and confidentiality?
Say again, yeah, Nasir, you've asked a very difficult question, my friend. Say again, please.
So how do architects balance between modeling samples of their designs and compromising ethical bounds of trust, security?
No, there is no balance. No, Nasir. There is no balance. If you're honest in the first go, then you're honest all the way. If you're honest and then you're sure that this is the right answer, then this is the right answer. You trust me. You go with honesty to your client, he will understand you. He will agree with you. See, there is no conflict here. You have to, the first model needs to be an honest model, and then there is no compromise.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then we have one question from Dhruv and Mahi. They're asking, these are lovely buildings that would make London a lot more beautiful. When are you planning a project in London?
So Dhruv and Mahi, yeah, please get me a project. I'll do it there. But I had a very interesting, a small episode, I'll tell you. I was designing their house. They are my nephews. Both of them have beaten Einstein's score when they were under 10. So absolutely great guys. So I designed their house in London. And there was this British architect we needed to sign the drawings. And Harvish, that guy used to think that, he's a great architect. British ruled India for so many years. So, what is this Indian guy? So I went to London and I told him. So he said, you can't do this, you can't do this. I said, man, there is no country in the world which can prevent me from having a basement. I have to abide by your norms. And the norms can also not be very extraordinary. There is commonsensical norms, and these are the norms, I think, and I am abiding by them. So he kept quiet. Then he thought that, most of the things I'm able to answer. So he thought that, what to do. So he said, tell me something. Are you only, I'd gone to Washington to give a lecture in World Bank. So he said, tell me something. Are you only giving lectures or also practicing architecture? So I've shown you some pictures of the apartments and all like that. So I said, Sean, how many buildings have you designed in your life? So he said around 150 houses. So I said, okay, you multiply the area of 150 houses by whatever you want. say 200 square meter, 300 square meter. In England, the houses are small. And I said, multiply that by 100. So I have planned more than that. So for God's sake, let's not talk about architecture. And I mean, I will do whatever local norms say, but don't try and look down on me. So friends, my student friends, I mean, we don't have to feel low by any standards. They have their context. In that context, they plan. We have our context in which we plan.
Yeah.
So there is no conflict, and no one is better than the other.
Right, sir. Sir, again, we have similar questions from Pakistan, from Samia and Nazir. They have very similar questions. That what is your inspiration when you are creating some design in your mind and then on paper?
That one is a very good one. I must say, Samia and Harvish, I once had a discussion with a novel writer who writes books and a music director as to how does he make music, or how does he write a book, or how do I design a building. A very interesting discussion. So now the writer says, I look at the context, there is this love story and they get separated or whatever. So I think about that context and then I start writing. When I create a place, a village or a city or something. Music director says, I think of the scene, or I think of what kind of environment I want to create with my music, and I create. So I said, I do the same. But each one of us had a common factor, that there is a flash of idea that you have to get. And that you get from the God. Nobody gives you that. You just have to sit down, pray to God that please give me strength to design a building which will be good for the site and the user. That flash will come to you only from the God. Other things are man-made. This is my conclusion.
Okay, sir. And sir, we have one question again from Rishi, that how do you rate Turkish architecture with our subcontinent designs?
Beautiful. Very, very, very beautiful. They understood the meaning of form. They understood the meaning of not defined, but yet enclosed spaces. It's kind of difficult to understand. I once, when I was participating in Central University Jammu competition, we studied as to how those mosques, the Blue Mosque and the other mosque in Istanbul, how they have been planned. Even you look at your Taj, how is that planned? It's not only that the 4 minarets are put there, but the 4 minarets create and enclose a volume in which the central focal building is put. So Turkish were masters at it. So
Yeah.
beautiful. And their tank, Rishi Saab, you must have seen their water tank. That's a feat in engineering.
Okay, sir. And then one of our listeners is asking that why did you use circle as a form of an auditorium? It is a difficult form from the acoustic point of view.
Who's asking?
So there's no name, but I think it's the chat box, right?
No, I just wanted to know what kind of answer to give. So that's why. No, you see, circle is a complete form. It's a complete form. And from a complete form that I used for the auditorium, the other functions radiate out. The same thing you saw in my lecture hall complex. It was a quarter circle. So, circle to me helps me define the functions better. But then again, circle is not the ideal form for a house or for a hospital. So you have to have the context. But in a correct context, like auditorium or some other buildings, circle can lead you to very nice, very beautiful solutions which are geometrically interlinked.
Okay, sir, but I think this question was in the context of acoustics, that from the acoustic point of view, it is a difficult form to handle.
Right. It is. It is indeed difficult, and we had to, absolutely right. We had to work out on the reverberation time and the amount and the type of absorption needed in the ceiling and in the walls, and especially the walls at the back. Otherwise, you are right, the sound will bounce back and it will come in the radial form and come to the center. Absolutely. So we had to take care of that. Yes.
Okay, and sir, again, we have a question from Pakistan. It's from Shabana. Uh, she says that most of the architects pride themselves on their adaptability, which allows to tailor their style to fit each house or building. So, what is your signature style?
I thought Bana just said that the style has to be adaptive. So that's what I do. I try and adapt. But like according to me, a university, I always look at a university like the one in England, the British time. So they had a lot of bricks. So you would see that in my university buildings, I'm using a lot of, if not bricks, red colored stone, and then making a combination. So from that point of view, if you call that stylistic, yes, that's a style. But if you look at the shapes and the forms, they are very different from building to building. But you have to have a common vocabulary. So that's a difficult balance. The vocabulary in PTU you saw was a combination of square windows and structural glazing and 2-floor high windows. The vocabulary in GGSIPU Guru Gobind Singh was terraces and bridges. So this is how we tend to adapt the style.
Okay, sir. And one of the questions is what are the issues and models of integrated architectural design?
There are no issues. There are no. See, I think we are trying to create an environment, and in that everything plays its role: architecture, structure, materials, air conditioning, lighting, and all that has to be integrated. Like I said earlier, also that you have to optimize different functions and not look at architecture as architecture or structure as structure or air conditioning as air conditioning. If, like I showed you my library in Guru Gobind Singh in the Trasta University, so there we optimized the air conditioning and worked out the building spans and the building size according to what will work together. We optimized the lighting by putting the tube lights between the beams over which the stacks were resting. So we have to strike a balance and create a integrated design. Absolutely, that's our job.
Thank you, sir. And now I think one of our students is asking you a question, that how do you get concept for your design projects, and any advice for the architecture students who have just joined the architecture degree?
Which year student is he?
So now they are in third semester.
My dear friend, like my Guruji used to say, building has a context. So, first of all, understand what the context is. What does the site want? In that context, we have the user. The user has certain requirements. In that context, how will I meet users' requirements? Now, to meet the user's requirement, you have to, again, like I said, optimize structure, electrical, and all that. But the most important is you must get that flash, the idea. See, all of us are struggling. There is one Frank Lloyd Wright. There was one Le Corbusier. you know. So we are all the time struggling to get answers. We are not, like I told you, I didn't even know what architecture is when I joined architecture. So we are still working on it. We are trying to understand what architecture is. I was reading a book. There's a guy who was painting, an American guy, and he wrote that at the age of 80, he understood what spaces on the painting mean. So, my dear, we are struggling to find solutions. We are working. So, these are the parameters within which we should analyze the building that we need to have, and then just try and get that flash. And to me, the flash has come between 3 to 4 days, 72 hours to 96 hours. If I honestly pray to the God, please tell me what I should do here. That is how it has worked for me.
Okay, thank you, sir. So again, we have question from Samia and Shabana from Pakistan, and again a very similar question. Samia wants to know the project you take pride in, and Shabana wants to know about the one of your challenging projects.
I would say the first big project, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. But after that, I must say that I wanted to make Guru Gobind Singh University as an interesting study place for the students, and so am I trying to do with the PTU. So I am evolving, I am learning, I am working. I interact with young students. I go visit buildings. I must say that foreground issue that Mr. Kanvinde told me, I saw in that Dutch architects buildings in Holland, that the foreground had a tremendous impact to give the building a context. So we have to continue to read. We have to continue to learn. We have a lot to learn. So I'm learning, and each of my projects, I try to do my best. But my turning point, like I said, was Guru Gobind Singh University.
Okay, sir, we have one listener from Cambodia, Vanthan. He wants to know what kind of information did you collect to design the buildings with contour lines in different elevation, and what are the problems that we are faced during the design stage and the operation stage? Basically asking about the contour designs, the data we collect before and the challenges we have later.
Yeah, Vanthan, Vanthan and me, we work together in Cambodia. So Vanthan, what we have to do is, when we have a sloping site, we have to first of all identify the buildable areas, buildable zones. In those zones, we have to figure out, buildable zone means you have to identify how much is the gradient on which you'll be able to build. If it is like this, you can't build. So you have to decide. So in architecture, these parameters are, after a lot of experience, people have worked out that between 5 to 10% is all right. 10% is more expensive, 6, 7% is all right. So you first of all, on a big site, identify the zone where you can build. Then in that zone, you work out the water channels, the natural flow of water. So like they always say, never ever fight with nature. So I showed you my Baba Ghulam Shah University. So our first point of departure after identifying the zone was the water channels, and respecting those channels, and the contours which you have to respect to minimize cutting and filling. So you have to optimize these 4 or 5 very important things to get to a solution which will environmentally not be very damaging.
Okay, sir, thank you. Sir, again, we have a question from Afghanistan, from Ubaidullah Halim. He wants to ask that what is your experience or track record with cost estimating, and what's the track record for completing the projects within the original budget and timeline?
Halim Saab, Halim and me, we work together in Afghanistan. So no, Halim Saab, my track record has been that if we do detailing to the extent of, I would say, 80%, 85%, and prepare the bill of quantities based on that. Most of my projects are completed within 3-4% variation, sometimes even lower. But if we don't take decisions and we make changes at site, that somebody comes and he says, oh, I want granite because architect has proposed mosaic, and somebody says, I want granite, and then there are ad hoc decisions taken, the structural design is changed. So these things cause a lot of disruption to the cost estimates. So I would say that I go to tender when I have done 80-90% analysis of my buildings. I have included 90-95% of the items, and then I have not seen much variations in my building. My buildings are huge. The tenders go to something 100 crore, 120 crore, 80 crore, so like that. So you can imagine the amount of effort required to do a detailed BOQ, detailed designing and BOQ, and to make sure that all your design elements are included. So it is the pre-construction work which plays a major role in controlling cost.
Thank you so much, sir. This was really valuable, I think, for many of us. Sir, again, one of our students, Deshna, she wants, we'll be having the residential project upcoming in the third semester now. So she's just concerned that they are starting a residential project, and from where should they start from?
Where should they start? When I used to design houses, what is this girl's name?
So Deshna.
Deshna, when I used to design houses, we also did a house in third year under Ram Sharma, a great architect. And he had an artist friend. We designed a house for him. So like I said, in SPA, they used to teach us processes. So that artist came to us to spend about 3 days and took us to his house to show how he lives. What is his expectation in his new environment? How does he want to continue to live? What is wrong in the current environment and what is right in the current environment, which must be persisted with? So the first point I also used, after that I learned that whenever I did a house, I would ask about the family, about how they live. I must say, I've designed a lot of jewelers' houses. One jeweler said that I want to have a very small bedroom, but I want to have a huge common room. And other jewelers that I had worked for earlier, they all wanted huge bedrooms. But now there was this guy who was completely against that idea. Therefore, we need to understand what the client is comfortable with. A lot of people come to my house, not that it is anything, so they say that design a house like this, and I say, I can't design because I can't live your life. This is for my life. So you have, as an architect, you have to live as much as possible his life and then design. Okay?
Yeah, very rightly said, sir. So again, we have one last question. It's again from Pakistan. What did you do to bring the essence of Punjab in Guru Gobind University?
I would say in Guru Gobind Singh University, the essence of Punjab was in the form of clusters and chalks, and varying heights which shaded the chalks when needed. So the Punjab concept is, in the old Punjab area or in old Delhi area, we have courtyards in the center and then the rooms around. So I just expanded it, had a courtyard in the center and had the departments around. And those departments, like I showed you in the pictures, were constantly interacting with the courtyards from different levels, terraces, balconies, double height areas. So learning from Punjab, I created a total built volume of a courtyard surrounded by 2, 3, 4 colleges, And then I extended my courtyard into the building. I extended the building into the courtyard. So that kind of a thing I created, which is not truly Punjab as in Punjab, that they have a chalk and a corridor and then the rooms around. Yes, that is useful. But in the current context, I expanded that idea of courtyards into the university context. So, and I would say the other thing is that the terraces that I create. I feel very comfortable when I see that students are sitting around. We did some terrace landscaping there. So it's fantastic to see, kids are sitting around talking to each other. And in Delhi, we have fire escape staircases. So we made those fire escape staircases as part of connecting those terraces. So it became compulsory use rather than, kind of not used fire escape staircases. So I use that idea of terraces so that, to enhance the activity level. So I would say that these elements I used which suited my context.
Thank you, sir. Undoubtedly a very enlightening session. I'm happy that we have talked about concept and the context in the projects, because since first year we are pushing our students to make the design that are concept based, they are context based, and I think my students must have got the importance that why it is necessary to make a project successful. And sir, now I would like to invite architect Vivek Sehgal, HOD, GNDC School of Architecture, for the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Rajiv sir. It was really a kind of a roller coaster ride throughout the session. So many ups and downs, especially when, in the beginning there was some issue with the connection, but eventually we had a beautiful session. Before formal vote of thanks, I would just read a question. It was missed from Nasir, Nigeria. It said that how do you spend your leisure time, sir? All work and no play.
Nasir, that's a very difficult question, man. I go to any place with my wife and I'm looking at the building and the space and the columns and the environment, and my wife says, I hate you. I really hate to be with you on a leisure trip. But yes, leisure, I spend my time studying, and I must say I watch quite a few films. So those are my pastimes.
And sir is also, sir always do yoga daily in the morning. I would like to tell my listeners.
Yeah, yoga and meditation. Yeah, my friends, the young students, I think, Vivek, if you can somehow introduce this little bit of yoga and meditation, and meditation is a great tool to get you, like all if I can just speak a little, all the things are there in the universe. It's only that we have to tune ourselves to get that message from the universe, like you tune a radio or a TV. So you just have to tune it. It's there. Beautiful. So you have to just ask the God, tell me, what should I do? And He's there. He's there for you. It's only that you don't ask. The problem with human beings is we don't ask. So we think no end of ourselves. We think, oh, I'm better than Corbusier, but I'm nothing. So if we just ask the God will guide us.
Sir, while I was looking at your work, I could recall one quote from Le Corbusier. It said, space, light, and order, these are the things that men need, just as much as they need bread or a place to sleep. This is a quote by Le Corbusier, and I think this perfectly suits your design also. I could see in every design of yours, you have provided enough space, you have made it sure that your building interiors are perfectly lit, and of course, You talked about order also in the buildings. You know, the kind of spaces that you have produced and the hierarchy in the buildings was so beautifully, designed. So I, on behalf of
Thank
the
you.
whole GNDC college, would like to extend heartily vote of thanks to you, sir. You have
Most
contributed
welcome.
your valuable time for the students' fraternity. I'm extremely delighted to see such a sporting and curious attitude of students. So many questions they have asked. Last but not the least, I thank Computer Center team, Sindar sir, Rai sir for their technical support, without which I'm sure this session would not have been possible. In a very short notice, they have actually made this system okay for nearly 200 users. The magnificent work they have done. It is worth applauding. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We are looking forward to have you to host you again, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Most welcome. And I would like to say, Vivek, before we wind up, I would like to say thanks to my friends. I think Sajad is also logged in. He's the director of School of Art in Lahore. I gave a lecture there. And a lot of my friends from Pakistan, I worked with them in Afghanistan. And my friends in Africa, my Ghana friends have joined, but they remained quiet. And Nigeria. So I'm grateful to them all uh, to spend their part of Sunday, on this. So thanks to everyone and all my friends in Afghanistan. Thank you, everyone.
After the lockdown, sir, we would surely invite you and request you to please visit our campus.
Sure, sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Most
Thank you.
welcome. Most welcome. Bye bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, sir.